I'm live. Welcome, my friends, to this magical journey of Sri Lanka. This is episode 2. If you missed episode 1, I think you should check it out because it is part of the magic and the surprise that led us to Sri Lanka in the first place. And that's where I'm going to pick up, is landing in Sri Lanka for the first time in 2015. So here Rory and I we had come from India. No expectations. And this part of the tale is the gifts that we can receive when we're not expecting them. There's something especially generous in the experience of receiving when you didn't necessarily have preconceived expectations. So we arrive in Sri Lanka, and the only thing that was planned was we had booked the room for the first night at a lovely place called the Green Olive Villa. Later on, a few years later, it ends up that the owners of the Green Olive Villa come to the United States when Rory and I get married. And the wife of the proprietor actually dressed me in a beautiful golden sari for my wedding. So this is also part of the magic that just kept rolling out. So we get to the Green Olive Villa. We fly into the city of Colombo, get to the Green Olive Villa, which is near the airport. The only other thing that we had planned ahead on was renting a car. So we relax. We have this amazing Sri Lankan food with the coconut sambal, which is freshly grated coconut and chili and lime juice. And you put it over something called string hapas, which kind of look like a little bird's nest of steamed, in essence, it's a rice batter that's been steamed, and it looks like a little bird's nest. And then you can put a potato curry on top and the coconut sambal, and you eat it with your hands. So we're enjoying this amazing food and this delightful way of eating with our hands. And we tell the proprietor that we've rented a car and that Rory now needs help getting to downtown Colombo so he can pick up the car, and he had to go through something to get a license there. So Lalanta, the proprietor, he sends Rory off with his driver to go to the big city of Colombo because we're outside of it now by the airport. Rory's gone all day long. I'm thinking, oh, it's an easy thing. He's going to go get this license thing and come back. He's gone maybe 7-8 hours. That's how long it took. And once he comes back, Lalanta, the owner, he said, don't get a rental car. He finally had gotten his license, and then we could get the rental car. He's like, don't get the rental car. Right about that time, we get a phone call from the rental car place that says, sorry, we don't have the rental car for you. Thank God. Have you driven in Sri Lanka or India? It is a whole other order of being. It's not in the West, we're used to, I'm an individual in the car in my protected little bubble. At least in my experience in Asia, there's much more of a hive mentality. So there's this kind of flow that has to do with the whole sort of mass of collective on the road that is not really how Westerners think and how we drive. So it feels basically like chaotic insanity. So Lalanta says, don't drive here. You will have much more of a relaxing trip if you just let yourself be driven. I never even considered to let myself be driven other than like an airport transfer. And so he says, take my car, take my driver. I think it was at the time he charged $25 a day. We have no idea where we're going to go and what we're going to do next. We just kind of give ourselves over to the suggestion of Lalanta and the driver. And we set off on what felt like an expedition. And it was actually, the vehicle was like it wasn't a Jeep, but it was Jeep-like. It felt really hardy, like we were going on a safari. And the driver proceeds to take us to all of these beautiful places, first along the coast and then up into the tea lands. And this is where I'm going to leave off this part of the journey for today, was that he took us to it was basically his in-laws' house up in the mountains in the tea country. We drive into this area where to get to their house, you actually cannot drive to the house. You have to park the car, and then you have to walk across the tea lands with your things to get to this particular house. And as you walk across the tea lands, you're also walking across a leach field. You know, leeches? So they kind of communicated, you know, put your shoes on, your best shoes on, there's leeches. I didn't really totally understand what was going to be going on. I've never experienced anything like that. We get to the house after walking through the tea lands and the leach field, and they then communicate, take off your shoes now and socks. And I'm thinking, well, what would be the big deal? I had my tennis shoes on. How could a leech get in there? Sure enough, I have multiple leeches in between my toes. They made it through the shoes, through the socks, into my toes. So they take a flashlight, and before anyone can go in the house, they pull the leeches off. Just little bitty guys. We get into this house, this sweet little almost hut-like house that was built for this family. There was 2 bedrooms, and the entire family piled into one bedroom to give Rory and I the other bedroom. The generosity of these people was like something that just cracked my heart wide open. And even though, I'll be honest, I had uncomfortabilities with being there for a few different reasons. One, insects, the amount of insects, and looking up at the rooftop, the way it's done was actually a layer of tape that was woven, like duct tape woven over itself as the inner part of the roof, and the upper, and basically there was a gap between the upper roof and this tape ceiling. And there was just a lot of stuff coming down, and insects, and in the bedroom, mothballs, and the smell was really strong. So while I was simultaneously having this experience of like, a lot of these things feel almost like assaulting to my senses, and there's this heartbreaking generosity, the purity of humans in genuine, welcoming delight and joy, effervescing, like the freshness of full joy and delight to welcome another into your home. There's no way to completely describe and transmit that feeling, and it feels so good. We didn't speak much Sinhala. They didn't speak hardly any English. We're communicating basically with the things that we always have to communicate with, which is facial expression, sound of the voice, presencing with another. And here we hung out. We played Karam, which is I think I'm saying that right, it's a game. We shared in food. I observed the cooking of the food on a wood. They were cooking on wood fire inside the house. Dancing, songs. My husband was playing a little ukulele. The joy and the richness of this experience is something that imprinted onto my being, and I will never, ever forget it. And part of what I knew in this particular experience, and this is where I'll sum up the story for today, is that being free from having expectation all the time. Of course, we're going to have expectations at times. It's important for planning, etc. But some of the time, being completely free from expectation and allowing yourself to be carried by the magic of the adventure of life, like truly, truly, that's what we were doing, can be simultaneously so uncomfortable, so liberating, and so generously expansive. It's like cracking you open in all the crusty places where control has taken hold because of fear of the unknown or fear of the unfamiliar. And that was the beginning of the knowing that there's such important medicine here in this way of being, both with the people in the land of Sri Lanka, but also in the way of being of adventuring, true adventure to nourish the soul. Tomorrow I'll see you, and I'll share the next adventurous story in our first journey to Sri Lanka that additionally completely changed the way that I related to myself and to Rory. I'll see you there. If you enjoyed this, be sure to like, and you can share it and click to get the alerts so that each day when I post a new video, you'll have it. And of course, if you would like to comment, I think the comments are turned on. Feel free. I would love to hear what you have to share. Much love from my heart to yours. And until next time.